Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Locked in Love: How 2 Weeks in Chastity Can End the Barter System, Renew Courtship, and Make a Better Husband, by Barrett Msc. Narrated by Quincy Wells. Disclaimer: This book is intended as a marital aid. It is meant to assist couples seeking to embrace a female-dominant lifestyle. It is not absolute, and it is not intended to be used in lieu of couples therapy. Use the suggestions in this book at your own discretion. The author makes no claims that the ideas contained in this book will work for you. He hopes they will. Though I often refer to husbands and wives, this is more as a writing shorthand. It can be exhausting to write wife, girlfriend, boyfriend every time. Partner sounds too clinical, so I use the traditional husband/wife dichotomy. But it should be known that this applies to all types of adult, long-term relationships where the male can try chastity. I intend no value judgments about which relationship type is more valid when I use husband/wife. All loving relationships are beautiful. The backstory. I knew you kind of liked being locked up. Mrs. Key. If you've read my previous nonfiction work, Surrender, Submit, Serve Her, then you know I take the subjects of relationships and sexuality very seriously. So it's a bit odd that I stumbled into the power of male chastity through what was honestly a bit of a lark. Apart from researching and reporting on the benefits of female-led relationships, I also write a lot of erotica. Most, but not all of this erotica has a female superior or femdom bent. That is, she's in charge. I write a lot from an omnipotent third-person gaze, but nonetheless I delve into the motivations and feelings of both the female dominant and the male submissive. It's important to unpack what's going on in their minds as he experiences his first act of submission, or she takes in the sights, sounds, and senses of his surrender to her. Like most writers, I am always trying to find a way to be better at it. I look to expand my own knowledge and experience so that the feelings my characters express come off as authentic. Readers can always spot a phony. One thing I really couldn't quite get the motivations and sensations down for was enforced male chastity. If you know anything about femdom, enforced male chastity is one of the biggest fetishes in it. If you don't know, it means caging and locking a man's penis up in a device that prevents erections and thus prevents masturbation. The key is usually given to his partner, and she becomes his key holder, hence enforced chastity. I had a hard time understanding why a man would want that, beyond the obvious aspect of literally surrendering their sexuality to another. It seemed impractical, prone to failure, and possibly dangerous. Beyond that, I viewed it as one of the more fanciful aspects of femdom, as something written about frequently but practiced rarely. Nonetheless, I thought it important to get the feel for it, and to remain locked up long enough for it to become a burden, or at the very least an annoyance. A week seemed long enough to upset the balance for me. I talked with my wife about it, and we agreed to try 7 days in enforced chastity, with some rules and safety guidelines laid out beforehand, like I could unlock myself at any time if there was an immediate need or safety concern. It was supposed to be fun, a little kinky, and a learning lesson for the chaste characters I wanted to write. And in the end, it was. I gathered a much deeper understanding of submissive male motivation. But it became something more very quickly. That something more was the genesis of this book. Who is this book for? You're about to join me on a personal journey of ups and downs as I came to redefine and understand my role in the partnership that is marriage. So it makes sense that if you're here, you too are considering trying male chastity, have already tried it, or find stories of male chastity appealing. Ideally, the readers of this book are couples looking to find out more about how to practically explore the real possibility of enforced male chastity and experience the benefits that come with it. It's for couples who are seriously considering opening up their relationship to more intimacy with each other. It's for couples who are curious about their own sexuality and perhaps submissiveness. It's for couples who just want to have a little fun and see what happens. You don't have to be into bondage or in a female-led relationship to have this work. My wife and I aren't. You don't have to be 20-somethings without kids to try this. We are in our 40s and have children in the home. You just have to be a little patient and open to new experiences. No tricks. It's important to understand that this book is meant for both of you. Though most of the times my words will be directed towards the male, because he is the one who will go through the most transformative experience and is the one in chastity. It should be read by both of you, or at the very least both parties should be involved up to the start of the journal. If you read my other nonfiction work, you'll understand that I am a staunch believer in the idea that no one can be tricked into doing something like this. No one can be tricked into being a key holder any more than they could be tricked into becoming a female leader of the household. By the time you read this, I will have completed the experiment multiple times to validate the findings and spoken to many people on the subject. All along, I will have had the complete cooperation of my wife. Everything about what we have done has been done in a transparent, honest, and communicative way. It's the only way that something like this can be accomplished where both people will discover and learn from it. Any time you try and do something like that without communication, without trust, without empathy and understanding and caring for the other person, you are setting yourself up for failure. How could you not? The real beauty of enforced male chastity is that it really clues you into thinking of another person's needs above your own immediate needs. If you are trying to trick someone into being your key holder, you're doing the exact opposite, focusing on your needs first. So give yourself the chance to read this together and understand what's about to happen together. I promise you that your relationship will grow from this in ways you probably can't even imagine right now. How do I know that? I couldn't imagine it until it happened to me. Key's keynote. Tricking someone into getting what you want is not communication, it's manipulation. It's the opposite of empathy and selflessness. Book structure. The book is broken into 3 parts: setting up the rules, safety, and guidelines for your 14 days in enforced male chastity. My daily journals alternated with meaningful explanations of what you may feel/expect as you go along on your own journey, along with lessons to focus on, unpacking what you have learned with your wife and deciding what is next for you. Note: all the quotes in the beginning of the chapters are taken from my wife, Mrs. Key. A note on the journals and editing. What comes in the form of my journals are as close to the raw, unfiltered output as possible. I have come back to edit misspelling, punctuation, and other things along those lines, but I am purposely not putting my later recollections back into the journals. It's important that they stay as close to the time as possible, because you're going to be reading them as you are experiencing this. You are not going to have the ability to filter and edit and make yourself sound better. Besides, the anthropologist Richard Price worried a great deal about putting things down on paper because you lose your oral tradition. And though this is a book and has to be on paper, I wanted my journal parts to be as close to my oral tradition. The challenge. It definitely connected us on a different level of understanding and need of one another. Need being multi-tiered: physical, emotional, and partnership need. Mrs. Key. Why try male chastity? Well, if you purchased this book, chances are you were already interested in the concept to begin with. Maybe pornography led to an interest, which led to a search, which led you here. Or maybe one or both of you have considered spicing up your love life and thought the premise interesting. Perhaps you're concerned about masturbatory habits. Whatever reason, you're here. You've committed to read this far, and I'm hoping you'll be open to the idea of going a bit further. Let's face it, we men and women tend to rest on our laurels. We get comfortable in our relationships and settle into patterns. For women, this tends to take the form of accepting the status quo. That is, things aren't that bad, and the odds of changing male habits successfully are slim. The thought of having to start over is terrifying. Best to accept this might be as good as it gets. For men, we tend to be more oblivious. We are not, as a lot, terribly good emotional communicators, and we also have a nasty habit of assuming things are fine because they feel fine for us. This is because, in general, men engage in less empathetic behavior than women. Plainly spoken, men see things from the other side less often than women. The good news is this trait in men is not genetic. Men are no more designed to be less caring partners than their wives. This is fantastic, because it means if it isn't a design flaw, you can change it, and the one way to change it is through trying male chastity. Opening yourself to empathy and its concomitant feelings of vulnerability and selflessness not only enriches your wife's life and your relationship as a whole, it enriches you, too. It makes you emotionally available to your wife, which, in turn, eases burdens for the both of you. It allows for more intimacy, less reticence, and a greater sense of self-worth. Furthermore, it frees your wife to openly communicate to you without filters, and allows you to be open to listening. And it opens you up to self-reflection and change. You may not like what it reflects about you, but having bad habits doesn't make you a bad person. I'm here to tell you that you can and will change when you are motivated by a feeling of love so strong it's almost scary. Ending the barter system. How does chastity fit into this? By blocking the sexual impulse behind everyday activities and rechanneling that energy in more positive ways. It shuts down the barter system and forces you to engage with your wife in a matter that isn't goal-oriented towards sex. Quite simply, you probably have no idea how much of your daily interactions around your wife involve a subtle calculation and bargaining for sex. I seriously doubt you have any idea how much sex and a sexual end goal drives your interactions with your wife or partner. and I doubt you understand how this turns every single interaction with her into a transaction. I bet she does, though. You may have a healthy, happy sex life that leaves you fulfilled, but that doesn't change the biological impulse. If you are attracted to your partner, you probably subconsciously levy sexual negotiations in damn near every interaction with her. This is called the barter system. You constantly trade little acts around the house, kindness, even letting arguments pass in order to earn enough points to feel less guilty about asking for intimacy. The barter system. An unwritten code in relationships where the sexual aggressor commits a series of small positive acts in the goal of earning enough goodwill to assuage their guilt in pressuring their partner for sex. Why the barter system? Well, because it works. Each party gets something. It may not be the best system or the healthiest, but it does work most of the time. There is a tit for tat, literally. Whomever is the sexual aggressor in the relationship, this can be the woman, but often it's the man, will get sex eventually for their good deeds, while the partner gets deeds often in the form of compliments, help around the house, and gifts. It's all very transactional and obvious. Studies have shown that the more a man helps out around the house, the more likely he is to get sex. I can hear you right now. Hold on, though. Isn't that kind of how relationships work? People help out, compliment each other, and do things for each other. Then they're more attracted to each other. Well, yes. But the key here is there is a way to do all that without it being about an end goal of sex. And when you do that, when you act altruistically, you create more chances for intimacy, because nothing makes a person feel sexier than knowing their partner does things for them just because. Remove the sex pressure, and you increase excitement and enjoyment. Don't believe me? Take the time to ask your wife an intimate question. Ask her if it is harder to achieve an orgasm when she thinks you really want her to come. That's sex pressure. She wants it just as much as you do, probably more, but the feeling of having to accomplish it, to satisfy you, makes it all the harder to cross that finish line. The barter system works mostly because people don't want to let go of the bird in hand for the two in the bush. Trying something new is inherently risky. There's always the chance that the new system will be worse, and you can't go back to the old. It's human nature to fear that, and that reticence explains why the barter system remains the predominant way couples manage sex. But the barter system is not without its own risks. Barter systems can fail, just like any system can. Only when it fails, it doesn't have the fail-safes of strong communication and intimacy to fall back on. The communication in the barter system is an unspoken one. I do these things and you do that. Unspoken communication is rife with miscommunication and resentments. Furthermore, because the very nature of the barter system makes sex transactional, it inherently robs some of the intimacy of the act. This is dangerous because sex and relationships exist in a feedback loop. Strong communication leads to intimacy and more satisfying sex, which leads to strong communication. When the barter system breaks down, it breaks down in a couple of ways. The first possibility is that she becomes resentful at being treated like a dispenser of sexual favors and removes sex from the equation. This is not using sex as a weapon because she is not doing it to punish. She is doing it because she doesn't feel sexy and doesn't want to have sex. When this happens, The system remains broken until communication is reestablished and the issues worked through. Since most men aren't aware of the barter system, it's often hard for her to put into terms why she feels resentful. The best outcomes of this is a temporary return to the status quo. This will hold until the next time the sex pressure builds up to the tipping point again. The other equation is when the man stops bothering. If he is aware of the transactional nature of the barter system, it can make him feel like a John. Men desire to feel attractive to their mate, and feeling like they have to cajole their partner into sex by pleading and making offerings can have a detrimental effect on their sense of self-worth and sex drive. If he isn't aware of the barter system, he may feel like nothing he does seems to work. His efforts at wooing are wasted, and his wife's moods are capricious and unpredictable. Failing to understand how to change the outcome, and feeling bitter and confused, men in this situation turn to pornography for release, or worse, stray. What these two situations have in common is a lack of empathy and failure to communicate. Communication is a two-way street, but historically, it's men who can stand to make the extra effort. Understanding sex pressure and the reasons behind the barter system. Male sexual pressure is real, even in the context of a 20-year marriage. It is near constant and either open or subliminal. Behind every action that benefits the wife is the possibility that this might finally tip the scales towards sex. It can be overwhelming and place a heavy burden on your wife. But I do not want husbands to feel guilt about this. It's biological, and moreover, it's been a near constant drumbeat in their head since 12 or 13. When men are first overwhelmed by this biological impulse, they are barely teenagers. They do not have a fully developed brain yet. Nonetheless, the body takes a boy whose testosterone levels averaged somewhere between 7 and 130 nanograms per deciliter at age 11, and ramps the high end up to 1,200 by the time he's 13. Considering the average 40-year-old male is somewhere in the 800 range with a fully developed brain and still has problems with the barter system, we can all have sympathy for what's going on in that teenage boy's head. Furthermore, most teenage boys don't have many examples of healthy relationships with women at that age. Their strongest healthy relationship with a female is likely their mother. At 12 or 13, their relationship with their mother is likely transactional. Clean your room if you want to sleep over at Tommy's house. Mow the lawn for your allowance. This system works, and by young male standards, it is the only system they know that has tangible benefits and expected results produced by expected behavior. It is predictable and reliable. In that light, one can't be blamed for applying this barter system to relationships. So this standard remains and doesn't fade even by middle age. It's overwhelming and all-consuming as a full-grown adult. Men, on average, ejaculate 4 to 8 times a week. That's how many Yankees games there are in a week. But even the Yankees take 5 months off every year. So I don't want husbands to blame themselves. What I do want husbands to realize is that this biological drive of theirs is a poor backseat driver. It's directing a lot of what they do. The best way to stop it is to prevent it from getting what it wants. In simple terms, no release. Since the barter system is predicated on a constant low-level hum of male sexual pressure, it makes sense that one can stop the barter system by simply blocking the sexual drive. This is where chastity comes in. In enforced male chastity, the husband has no outlet, no promise of release to strive for. Release is wholly dependent on the wife and her desire. While this may seem frustrating on paper, it's actually liberating in reality. The drive does not go away, but it loses the all-encompassing power it has over your rational brain. Conscious thought wins out. The sexual energy, once solely directed towards a release, has to refocus and find other outlets. Very quickly, it will focus on the wife's enjoyment. Instead of rubbing her feet in the hopes of currying sexual favors, husbands will find themselves rubbing her feet because the sounds of her joy and the feel of her skin in their hands gives over a deep and abiding pleasure. Let's bring this down to the personal level. When you become locked for the first time, it will be immediate and you will feel different. This first step doesn't immediately redirect your sexual energy, but it instantly and constantly makes you aware of its influence over you. The results will be shocking. You may be a smart, sophisticated, in-control, middle-aged man, but in a lot of ways, you're still a horny teenager. The second part of this act, handing over the key to your wife, gives you an outlet to direct that energy towards. Only she can unlock you, so it's important that she wants to unlock you. In order to achieve that, you are going to put yourself in her shoes and think about what she really wants. In other words, be empathetic. And this time, you're going to have the high-powered fuel of your libido working to serve her ends, not yours. In the end, you will see how it works for both. At first, this will be empathy with a self-serving goal, ending with your release. That's still the barter system, just expressed differently. But as you continue being denied, with only your wife's satisfaction and contentment as payoff, you will come to crave it. Freed from a biological end goal for doing good deeds, you will find the love you have for her providing you with a different form of satisfaction. It's deep and abiding and feels like courtship. You will feel an immense pride in taking a heartwarming joy in the sight of her comfort and happiness. Renewing the courtship phase. When I talk about the courtship phase here, I'm not talking about that first part of dating that is often derogatorily referred to as the pursuit or the hunt. I'm talking about the post-sex bliss of a newfound relationship. Sex comes often and without asking, because both of you are eager for the intimacy and excitement of a new commitment. At this stage, in which sex is a given, the man does not worry about when the next sexual encounter may come, so, in effect, the barter system isn't in place yet. Instead of bartering for something that he knows will come, he simply does things for the girl because he wants to see her smile, to see her happy and content. It makes him feel good and gives him butterflies in the stomach just to be around her and do something as plain as hold her hand. This is the courtship phase. Courtship feels intense and incredible for her as well. Included with the feelings of butterflies, she feels safe to be sexy, knowing that he is being nice to her because he's enamored with her, not because he's trying to get into bed with her. It's a common lament in relationships to wonder, why can't it be like it was when we were first dating? What this person is longing for is the courtship phase. They may only think of it in terms of how much sex they had during that stage, but what they are really asking for is sex and the feeling of courtship. Of course, the differences between the courtship phase and a
Sample complete. Ready to continue?